Okay, so now we're back to the part 2 of our lesson. So we ended up discussing the heliocentric theory of Copernicus. So sabi ni Copernicus is what we have discussed in the part 1. Sabi niya, hindi daw ang Earth ang center of the universe, kundi yung Sun. However, Copernicus was not able to publish his work because uh, there were many uh, scholars who rejected his theory kasi it went against doon sa kay Ptolemy at saka sa church. So, kasi pag nag-agree sila, ibig sabihin, parang nangangahulugan that many scientists of the time or kahit ang mga tao felt that if Ptolemy's reasoning about the planets was wrong, then the whole system of human knowledge could be wrong. So, parang, kumbaga, back to scratch. Parang, ano bang totoo talaga? So, mahirap para sa kanila tanggapin yung theory ni Copernicus. We also have here Tycho Brahe. So, in the late 1500s, the Danish astronomer Tycho Brahe provided evidence that supported Copernicus' heliocentric theory. So, si Brahe nag-set ng astronomical observations. So, every night, for many years, he carefully observed the sky. So, he accumulated data about the movement of the stars and planets. We also have Johannes Kepler. So, Kepler's calculations supported Copernicus' heliocentric theory. So, yung mga natuklasan nila, kagaya ni Brahe, nag-support doon sa claim ni Copernicus. So, si Kepler, gi-expand niya palalo yung idea ni Copernicus. However, kasi si Copernicus sabi niya, circular orbits daw yung pinag-iikutan ng planets. However, sabi ni Kepler, elliptical daw siya. Hindi siya circle. Elliptical daw. So, actually, Kepler's finding helped explain the paths followed by man-made satellites. Of course, you have also here Galileo Galilei. Sino bang hindi nakakakilala sa kanya? So, he is famous dahil sa kanyang gawang sariling telescope, to observe the stars, the heavens. So, he built on new theories about astronomy. He actually wrote Starry Messenger, so he described his observations on his self-made telescope, which allowed him to see mountains on the moon and hairy spots on the sun. So, nakakita rin siya ng 4 na moon sa Jupiter. Okay, so, Galileo also discovered that objects at the same speed regardless of weight, he discovered that objects fall at the same speed regardless of weight. So actually, Galileo's discovery caused an uproar. So kasi maraming scholars against sa kanya, just like Copernicus, marami rin naging against doon sa kanya. Because Galileo was also contradicting Ptolemy, just like Copernicus. So actually, the church came against Galileo because it claimed that the earth was fixed and unmoving. So he was challenged by the church because it supported the heliocentric theory and it went against church teaching. Kasi sabi natin, doon sa lesson 1, doon sa part 1, kabilang ang church sa taga-suporta ni Ptolemy that the earth is the center of the universe, that it was not moving. However, sabi ni Copernicus and all other scientists, including Galileo Galilei, earth was indeed moving based sa kanilang mga observations. So when threatened with death before the Inquisition, the Spanish Inquisition in 1633, Galileo recanted his beliefs kahit na alam niya na ang Earth talaga ay gumagalaw. Recanted ibig sabihin binawi. So Galileo was put under house arrest and was not allowed to publish his ideas. So ganun kahigpit yung ginawa sa kanya. So house arrest daw. Parang nakulong. Pero hindi naman sa kulungan. Sa house. Pinaganda lang. So, he was not able to publish his work. Now, as a scientist, syempre, gusto mo talaga ma-publish yung mga works niya. But, since yung kanyang mga discoveries was against the teaching of the church, and the belief of the church, hindi maganda yung nangyari sa kanya. So, Galileo was right all along. So, in 1992, the Roman Catholic Church finally repealed the ruling of the Inquisition against Galileo. So the church gave a pardon to Galileo and admitted that heliocentric theory was correct. So this was 350 years after Galileo's death. So matay na siya noon before pa bago napatawad or anong tawag siya. Binawi ng church ang kanilang desisyon sa kay Galileo. Kasi proven na tama yung heliocentric theory. So, yun nga, scientific revolution. So, ang scientific revolution, sabi kasi dito, truth is acquired or facts are acquired through observation and experimentation. Hindi kagaya noon na pag muni-muni ka lang, makukuha mo na daw yung truth. So, by the early 1600s, a new approach to science had emerged known as the scientific method. So, I will not discuss this any further to you kasi I believe since high school pa ito, senior high school, nadi-discussin na ito. So, syempre sa scientific method, merong hypothesis, merong experiments. So, ito yung steps. So, pwedeng pabalik-balik yan. So, scientists soon discovered that the movements of bodies in nature closely followed what could be predicted by mathematics. Newton. So, here is another scientist, si Newton. So, si Newton actually was one of the most influential scientists of the scientific revolution. So, he's an English scholar who built upon the work of Copernicus and Galileo. So actually, he used math to prove the existence of gravity, a force that kept planets in their orbits around the sun and also caused objects to fall towards the earth. So there is a popular story actually of the apple tree, na one day daw, nakahiga si Newton and then an apple fell to the ground. Tapos doon daw, sabi, according to story, is doon nag-spark yung curiosity niya about sa gravity. Sabi niya, could the force na nag-pull down ng apple pababa could also be the same force na nag-pull ng moon to the earth and the earth to the sun. So, imagine naisip niyo kamunsan yung ginako kung nagamunin. Okay, so Newton published his scientific ideas in his book, Mathematical Principles of Natural Philosophy. Basahin mo yan kung mag-complete. Okay, so, syempre, meron siyang mga laws na popular. One, a body at rest stays at rest. Acceleration is caused by force. For every action, there is an equal opposite reaction. So, I will not explain that because this is not a physics class. Basta, kay Newton yan. So, syempre, he was able to discover those laws because of the scientific method. We also have here Francis Bacon. Actually, Francis Bacon was a philosopher, an English philosopher, who said that nag-urge siya actually sa mga scientists at sa mga tao in general not to rely on the medieval scholars. Yung medieval scholars kasi hindi sila gumagamit ng scientific method. We also have Rene Descartes. So, i-pause na lang yun tapos basahin. But like Bacon, Descartes also believed that truth was only found after a long process of studying and investigation. Clearly, merong scientific method. So, din sila? Nag-experiment. Robert Boyle is actually a chemist. So, Boyle also explained the effect of temperature and pressure on gases. So, in the field of medicine, si Vesalius nag-publish siya ng aklat on the structure of the human body. Ayan. So, he actually robbed graves ng mga libingan just to get corpses for dissection. So, yun kasi yung kanyang parang nagiging experiment. Tinitingnan niya kung paano ba. So, ito yung drawing ng anatomy ng tao of a human bago si Vesalius. So, ito na yung kay Vesalius. Siyempre, sa dami ba naman ang nahukay niyang patay. So, kapag-observe talaga siya. William Harvey. So, circulation of blood naman yung kanyang nagkaklasan. Yung mga veins. Another scientist in the field of medicine is Ambrose Parry. So, he actually discovered an ointment for preventing infections. He also developed techniques for closing wounds and stitches. So, ito yung kanyang mga cauterizing instruments. Just imagine. So, Anton von Leeuwenhoek. So, syempre, ang microscope. Yung kanyang pinagmamalaki. He is known to that. So, but yung microscope na nakikita natin, hindi ganyan yung na-invento ni Leeuwenhoek. Ganyan. So, imagine yan, parang pala. Hindi mo naintindihan. So, Edward Jenner developed actually a vaccine. So, he injected the cowpox germs actually. So, yung cowpox germs, i-inject niya to humans para magkaroon ng immunity to smallpox. Charles Darwin. So, syempre, kilala niyo na si Charles Darwin. Ano ba yung nagkakakilala yung kay Charles Darwin? Sino naman to? John Henslow. John Henslow was actually the teacher of Charles Darwin. So, John Henslow invited Charles Darwin na maglayag The Voyage of the Beagle. So, basahin nyo naman yan. So, ang sinasabi lang naman dito, ang point lang naman dito, is that scientists were experimenting. So, they were observing to acquire knowledge, to acquire facts, to acquire the truth. Hindi ka tulad dati. Nagpa-contemplate lang daw sila. Hindi na yung uso. Okay, so Charles Darwin sailed December 27, 1831 and then returned to England October 2, 1836. So meron siyang 5 years na nilaan para doon sa voyage niya. So marami siyang natuklasan. He recorded everything. So he sent it to the British Museum and then published the results of his research and collections. The Voyage of the Beagle, 1839-1845. So, ang pinaka-vital na natuklasan or theory ni Charles Darwin is the theory of evolution. So, it focuses actually on the elimination of inferior species gradually over time. So, through a process called the natural selection. So, do you believe in natural selection? So, ayon kay Darwin daw, yung mga inferior daw or mahihina ng mga species, mai-eliminate daw yun sa life gradually over time. So, that is what he called natural selection process. So, itong nakikita natin sa picture, ito yung parang evolution. Do you think COVID-19 is also natural selection sa mga tao? Eliminating those who are, let's say, hindi na masyado siguro makakasurvive. What do you think? So that's a thing for you to ponder. Survival of the fittest. So sabi dito, it has often and confidently been asserted that man's origin can never be known. But ignorance more frequently begets confidence than does knowledge. It is those who know little, and not those who know much, who so positively assert that this or that will never be solved by science. So, this is a famous quote of Charles Darwin. Kung sino pa daw yung wala masyadong alam, sila pa yung kumbaga confident na magsabi na hindi na yun ma-resolve. Siyempre, kasi nga, wala na silang alam. O ano pang aasahan. So, sasabihin ko, pag mas marami kang nalalaman, mas tuloy na iisip mo na marami ka pang hindi alam. Parang ganun. Okay, so we will end this here. So, this lesson is about the scientific, technological sciences that define society from the medieval age to scientific revolution up to the dito kay Charles Darwin. But of course, maraming pang mga scientists after Charles Darwin. Maraming scientists who contributed to the scientific revolution. So, sa psychiatry or psychology, nandiyan si Sigmund Freud. Hanggang ngayon, syempre, nagpapatuloy pa rin yung science. It is a very important aspect ng ating buhay ng science. Wala siguro ang science, wala na tayo. Tama ba? Okay, so God bless everyone. Hopefully, meron ng vaccine para mag-meet tayo face-to-face next semester. Thank you for listening.